I have been struggling lately, struggling with recording my solo episodes. And it's not that I don't want to, it's not that I don't have ideas or information coming to me that I could talk about. I have a lot of that. But like right now, I sat down to write down and organize my thoughts as has been part of my process in doing these episodes. And I cannot deny the feeling of procrastination that comes with it. And I know that when you experience procrastination, it's because you're trying to take action before you're ready, before you're lined up vibrationally. So I really wanted to record today. So instead of forcing this process and writing everything down, organizing my thoughts around the topic, and doing it the way that I normally do, I stopped what I was doing and just came into the studio and turned on the mic and started recording. So to be honest, I'm not really sure where this is going to go, but what I titled this recording in the studio was protests, because that is what I was focused on organizing my thoughts around before this whole procrastination thing hit me and I decided that I had to stop in my tracks and do something different. So I'm not really sure what the topic of this episode is going to be specifically. I'm just going to call it protests.
I'm Dr. Williams, and this is my podcast. I have 2 graduate degrees in psychology, am a licensed mental health counselor, and an expert in the area of spirituality. I am devoted to living my best life and am sharing it with all of you. I'm bringing my expertise, education, and life experiences to you through this podcast. Everyone deserves to enjoy life, and that is what I'm here to talk about. Depression, anxiety, grief, you name it, we all go through it at one time or another. I believe there's a better way to come at these things than mainstream mental health care offers, and I'm here to offer you my perspective and dig into discovering how you can feel good no matter what life throws at you. It is my intention to contribute goodness to this world, and the content herein is how I do that. But one disclaimer before we dive in. Should you decide to apply the information offered here, be prepared for improvements in your life. You may even live happily ever after, and you'll only have yourself to thank. This is Feel Good Now, the Dr. Williams podcast.
What's going on right now is something in my community. It's a real current event kind of thing that's happening in my town right now. All of us parents of elementary school children received an email letting us know that there's going to be a reconfiguration of the elementary schools. As it is right now, we have 2 elementary schools in our school district. One of them is in town and one of them is a little outside of town. And the way that it's determined which kids go to which school is based on where they live. So they have kind of like a map. And if your address falls in this part of the map, you go to this school. And if your address falls in this part of the map, you go to that school. Well, what they're going to do is they're changing that entire system by taking one of the elementary schools and making it kindergarten through 2nd grade. So all kindergarten through 2nd grade in the Sequim school district, all those kids would go to that school for K through 2. And then they're making the other school, the other elementary school, 3rd grade through 5th grade. So then all the kids in our district would go to that school for those grades. So you can imagine the response to this. It's a big change. It's huge. It's going to completely change everything for a lot of families. And there comes some concern with that. And a lot of the parents in our community are having a really strong reaction to this, a really strong negative reaction to this. So much so that there have been people out recruiting for protests, and there's been a walkout kind of like a keep your kids at home in order to make a statement about how you feel about the reconfiguration. There's been organized protests where people do signs, they go and they stand out on the corner trying to get support. The news has been covering it, and it is the talk of the town. We take our boys to baseball practice and baseball games, and this has been a topic on the bleachers amongst all the parents. And the feeling I'm getting is that most parents do not want this change. And they're upset because they feel like they're not being heard. And this decision was made without even considering how the parents or the kids feel about the change and whether they felt like it was a good thing for them. And that just kind of comes with the system, right? The system of school districts and making this kind of change from an administrative point of view where they think they know what is best based on whatever their reasons are and just going ahead with it in the school board without covering all their bases and making sure that everybody is on board or understands why this is a good thing. And I think that's one of the first problems. There's miscommunication here. And that's not to say that there hasn't been conversations leading up to this. According to somebody I know who worked for the school district for a long time, this is not a new concept. This is something that our district has been considering at least 5 years. So this isn't like they just got an idea this year and they're putting it into action. This is something they've been thinking about and whether it should be implemented or not for several years. In addition to that, once they really got serious about doing this change, they started having board meetings discussing it. It was on the docket to talk about with parents and the teachers and everybody involved. So there has been discussions around this. And I can't speak to any of that. I haven't been involved in that personally. I haven't been to the meetings. I don't know how the voting works, if there is voting. I just don't know how a decision is made by the school board when they finally say, okay, we're doing this. So I can't speak to any of that. I am experiencing this as a parent of an elementary school child and another one who's getting ready to start kindergarten next year. And this does affect my family in a big way. My 6-year-old, who will be going into 2nd grade next year, is very comfortable at his school. He knows the teachers, he knows the staff, he's familiar with the building. He has a relationship with several people that work there on a very personal level because we have some family ties to some people that work at his elementary school. And I'm telling you that because that is a really strong, persuasive element of why I want my kids at that school. It makes me feel better as a mom to know that I have some adults there who have a strong personal tie to me and my family and my kids. It just makes me feel better to know that there's adults there who care about us. And it's like having somebody at the school that's looking out for my kid when I can't be there. So there's that. Now, with my youngest getting ready to start kindergarten next year, I find some comfort, and so does he, in being there at the school where his older brother is. And you can understand that. This is a new, kind of scary thing to start. This is vastly different from his entire life so far. He's been at home and he's done preschool, which is a couple hours a day. Nothing like full-time elementary school at this huge building. This is new territory. And having his brother with him is comforting. It's just like a security blanket to have him there. He's been through it. He loves him. It's somebody to lean on. So that's why I was excited to have both my boys, since they're only 2 years apart, going to the same school at the same time. Now, I knew that there would come a time where there was going to be a separation, because when Austin goes off to middle school, obviously his younger brother is going to be in elementary school another 2 years before he moves on to the middle school. And then the same thing happens at high school. It's expected. And I'm kind of pulling on that a little bit with this reconfiguration and realizing that I was going to have to deal with this one way or the other in time. It's just that I wasn't expecting to deal with it right now. And so that requires me to adapt to something before I was ready to. And I think ultimately that's what's happening for a lot of people. A lot of these parents, it was like a blindside. Even though they had been discussing this for 5 years, this wasn't like out in the open, having conversations with the parents for 5 years. This is kind of in your face. We're doing this now. And everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute. This is a huge change. And this requires me to reassess our entire family system and dynamic and how we're going to manage this. So it makes sense that people are responding in the way that they are, in this negative, resistant kind of way. And I understand that. But if there had been more open communication about this leading up to the decision, allowed people some time to get used to it, allowed people some time to look into it more, talk to other people from other school districts who have been reconfigured in this way, allowed them to just ease into a change, it probably wouldn't be such a dramatic negative response. Because that's how humans work with change. It always goes better when you can ease into a change rather than have it be drastic. I've made this decision and now you have to respond to it. That's hard for people. It's just human nature. We are creatures of habit. We get into that habit. That's our system. We rely on it. It's how we structure and organize our entire daily life. And we rely on that for our mental health. It helps us to maintain our own emotional state of well-being because we can rely on what to expect day to day. Now that is being challenged in a huge way, in a way to where people are going, I don't know how this is going to work. And that's fair, and that should be heard. And I think that that should have been handled differently in this specific situation. It probably would have gone better if people had been a part of this conversation for the years leading up to the decision. So, my own personal position was that I was disappointed when I read the email stating that this change was happening. I thought, oh no. That means that Ian only has Austin for 1 year. 1 year, and then Austin's off to another school entirely. Now I'm going to have 2 elementary school kids in 2 different schools that are miles apart from each other. And, they ride the bus, so it's not as big of a deal for us as it is for parents who drive their kids to and from, because now they're going in 2 different directions. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about how Ian is going to handle not having his brother the year after. But then I started also considering that this could be a good thing. And I think this is where I kind of step away from the other parents who are completely focused on keeping things the way that they are currently. Because I've always been the type of person that can see both sides. And it's been helpful to me in therapy, being a counselor. When you can see things from different perspectives, that's a useful tool to have when you're working with people, especially in something like couples therapy, where you can see both perspectives and you can kind of mediate that. Well, in this situation, my initial response was one of disappointment. But then I thought, well, at least Ian will have him for 1 year. So at least he will have him to transition. He's going to be there his kindergarten year with his big brother in the same building. It's not like they're in the same classroom or anything, but he'll be around. And on the school bus, going to the same place, Austin can help his little brother at first. So that was a comfort to me. I realize that is not the case for some people who don't have my exact situation, where my kids are those ages apart from each other and it's working out in that way. So this is just my own unique perspective on this situation with my kids. So that was nice to think about it that way. That felt better, right? Instead of thinking about, I can't believe this, next year they'll be together, but then the following year they're going to split up. I could focus on that, but that didn't feel good. That felt really negative. But focusing on the positive aspect that Ian will have him for 1 year felt better. And that's what we always are striving for, because with everything we do, we are hoping that by getting what we want, we're going to feel better. That is always the goal. That is always why we want something. We want it to soothe us in some way. So that thought was more soothing to me. And I really focused on that. And then I started thinking, well, what if something bigger is happening here that none of us are even aware of? What if this is just the beginning of something really good that's coming on down the way? And since I have my perspective of universal law and the law of attraction and how it works and how contrast comes into our experience as a way for us to clarify more about what we want, maybe this is just a really big contrasting situation. And this is happening for the sole purpose of getting us as parents to be a large collective consciousness thinking about what we want as an entity, all of us, so that it promotes positive change in our community and brings something better in our educational system for our kids. That is not far-fetched. Have you been considering one-on-one sessions with me? Well, if you have, I wanted to let you know that there's actually 2 ways to go about doing that. You can go the therapy route, or you can go the coaching route. I am a licensed mental health counselor here in the state of Washington, and I'm actually registered as a telehealth provider. So this is something that might even be covered with your insurance company. And what you can do is you can go to the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center, or NRTRC for short, and you can find me there in Sequim, Washington, Sequim. So if you're in Washington and you're looking to have therapy with a mental health counselor, you can work with me. And we can do that virtually. That's what telehealth is. It allows us to meet without having to be in person. So what you do is you go to www.nrtrc.org and search for behavioral health in Sequim, Washington. And you'll find Dr. Williams, LLC is there. And that's how you schedule with me for therapy sessions. If you're wanting coaching sessions, you just go to my website, www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Right on the home page, there's a button there that says Work with Dr. Williams, and it'll take you to my scheduling calendar where you can set up a free 15-minute consult so that we can talk about it and see if it feels like it would be a good fit for you. Even if you've done traditional therapy in the past or coaching sessions with someone else and you felt like it wasn't a good fit, I get that. But I encourage you to give me a chance because I do things a little bit differently, and I might be the fit that you've been looking for. So there's really nothing to lose. Set up the consult. We'll just have a chat and see how you feel about it. Okay, let's get back to the episode. So then I started thinking, well, How do I feel about that? Yes, it would be hard at first, but would I be okay with that? If I knew that this reconfiguration was going to lead to something down the way, which is better for all the kids in my community, would I put up with the inconvenience? Would I put up with the hardship of this change for a little while in order to promote something greater on down the way? And of course, my answer is yes, of course. Yes. A smaller amount of time in hardship for a greater good, I would do that. The hard part is not knowing that. We don't know that's what's happening. It's really this fear of the unknown that is driving this negative response from all of us. We don't understand how this is going to be better. And that would help a lot if we knew that. So that's where faith comes in. And we have a lot of faith-grounded individuals in our community. A lot. So that's what I would encourage. I would say, pull on your faith. Know that whatever happens, it's going to work out for the best. Because that's how life really is. Whether you notice it at the time or not, everything really is working out for all of us. Good things are coming, but it takes some contrasting things in order to expand our minds, expand our desires. In order to birth the good thing, you have to have the contrasting thing there to promote it. No matter what happens, I believe that that is why this is happening. I think this change in our school district is there to provide positive expansion. And that's where I'm focused, because that's what I want. I want goodness to come out of this. And if you are focused on goodness coming out of it, only goodness can come out of it. Because what you're thinking about and how you feel about what you're thinking about is how you are manifesting reality. And that's why protesting is working against yourself. This is not a critique, okay? I am not judging anybody for protesting. Basically, I am just trying to elaborate on how to get what you want. There's a really specific way to do that. And if you're not doing it in that way, you're creating by default, which means sometimes it's going to be the way you want it to be, and sometimes it isn't. But if you want to deliberately create and manifest things as you want them to be, you have to put effort into thinking and feeling. And these knee-jerk reactions are negative responses, right? There's that fear there, that fear of the unknown, that scary change that's happening. When you are focused in that way, with those kind of thoughts and those kind of emotions, the only thing that will manifest is more of the same. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. If you were thinking about the inconvenience, if you were thinking about the hardship, if you are feeling distraught, angry, upset, depressed, mistrust. I mean, I could go on and on naming negative emotions that are associated with how our community is responding right now. But feeling those ways and thinking about why you feel that way is working against you. And I promise you, I'm not judging you. I am not telling you you're wrong. I am telling you, if you want it to be different, if you want the manifestation to line up with it being the way you want it to be, you have to change that. You have to focus on the aspects of things that make you feel good. So that would look like, I mentioned how I like the idea of my kids going to the same school for those reasons that I have, the staff being there, them having each other in the same building, not having to worry about going different directions with transportation, being on the same bus, whatever, all of that stuff. Okay, those are the reasons why I want it to be the way I want it to be. Now, I also have to reach for the feeling of having that. So I have to imagine that now the reconfiguration hasn't happened. They've decided to go back on it, and my kids are going to be at the same school. How do I feel about that? Well, I feel happy. I feel relief. I feel secure. I feel comfortable. It's something I know. I understand. It's reliable. It's relaxed. It's predictable. All of those emotions kind of are soothing to me, and that feels good. But I also can take that the other way. So let's say the reconfiguration happens. Now I have to focus on the aspects of that are positive. Well, my younger son is going to have to be more independent now. He's not going to have his brother to rely on. He's going to have to step into his own and be his own person and find his confidence. He's not going to have that dependency. That makes me feel good to know that. I know that he is going to find a way to come into himself and get through this without the crutch of his older brother. I also think that I don't know much about the system and how it's changing and what that offers the kids. But I do know that I have been asking for change with our education system. We actually went and looked at one of the Montessori schools that we have here. It's a private school to switch Austin to because he was having problems this year in first grade. And so we were considering options. It turns out that the school is full, so there's no room for Austin to go there next year. And I wasn't upset about that. I just went, okay, then it wasn't meant to be that way. But then along come down the line, and now this is happening. So that makes me go, well, change is happening, and I have been asking for a positive change in education for my kid. So I know that I could be contributing to that, and this could be the result of me asking for that. So that helps me to not focus on the fear of the unknown. That helps me to align with hope that this is going to be a positive change for our kids and our community. It is possible. You know, a lot of the parents are really focused on research and science backing up the reasons why this reconfiguration is not a good thing. And if you've listened to other episodes on the podcast, you know that my relationship with science is love-hate. There's a lot of things to appreciate in research, and I've done my fair share of research. And I think that's why I have this view in a lot of ways, because I understand that it's not conclusive. Research is not conclusive. Research is very specific in its parameters in order to answer a specific question. And a lot of the studies around this specific reconfiguration in the school system has been offered up in a negative light for how kids respond educationally when this happens. My position on that is you couldn't possibly know everything that's going on for those kids in order for them to get those results in that research. You can't really compare. Unless you're saying that all children are the same, you really cannot generalize to all children based on a research study of these kids. It doesn't work. Our kids are unique. You know that. What parent wouldn't say that? It's true. All of our kids have their own unique nature. And even if other school systems are finding negative response to this reconfiguration, it doesn't mean that we will. Not if our attitude is different. Not if our focus is different. Not if our focus is positive and hopeful and looking for the good in it. Because that will expand and grow and give us more of the same. It's law of attraction. You can bank on it. If you're doing that, that is what will come out of it. But if you are looking for the negatives to validate your position of negativity, you will also find that. So you kind of have to make a decision. The reconfiguration may happen. Let's say it has happened. Which part of that are you going to focus on? Can you go, well, shoot. It happened now. I didn't want it to happen, but it happened. And we don't have any other option but to send our kids to this school. So what am I going to do? Am I going to look for all the ways that my kid is failing now to validate what I thought was going to happen? Or am I going to align with the hope that it's going to be different in our school district because our kids are different? That can be hard for people. We have this innate desire to be validated. And being right about something is somewhat satisfying. But are you willing to sacrifice the well-being of your kid in order to align with that validation? Because that's what you're doing if you're choosing to look at it that way. Again, no judgment. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you have to make a choice about what you really want in that situation. If you have no control over whether the reconfiguration has happened, it's already happened. Now your control sits in what direction you're going to focus and how you're going to feel about it. Because that is what is going to promote whatever manifests for you and your family. It might not spread to every kid and their families, but you have control over your reality. And it is possible that even if all the other kids respond in a negative, failing kind of way, that yours won't. Because that's not what you are promoting. That is not what you are expecting or looking for. Because you're aligned with the well-being of your kids and your family. And that is what you will get. We're all human beings. And at any given time, we are being something. What you are being is up to you. So, are you going to be resistance or are you going to be allowing? Those are two opposite vibrational frequencies that you are offering when you align with them. You align with resistance, that's pushing against, that's protesting against. When you are allowing, you are aligned with receiving what you want. That is the difference between the two. You don't have to want what is happening, but you do have to align with what you want. It is the difference of aligning with the problem, which is resistance, or aligning with the solution, which is allowing. That will make the difference for you on how this goes. And this applies to anything, any situation. You are powerful. And one person who is in that allowing state, who is aligned with receiving what they want and knowing how to do it, is more powerful than thousands who are not. So it really only takes a little bit, a few people to do this, to make the change. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Get clear about what you want, why you want it, and how you feel about it. And feel those feelings right now in this moment while thinking about it. That is how you find your alignment. That is how you manifest what you want into reality. And I want it for you. I want you to have what you want. Doesn't matter what I want. Doesn't matter what anybody else wants. I want you to have what you want. And I know you can.
That concludes this episode, but if you don't want to wait for the next episode to come out, I have more for you at drwilliamspodcast.com. You can learn more about me and my journey to podcasting, find all the ways to connect with me on social media, and there's a button to subscribe so you're the first to know what's new and upcoming. You also can shoot me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com. You are so special to me, and your support does not go unnoticed. I want to support you too. This podcast is my outlet for growth because when you teach something, you hold yourself accountable and apply the information in life. But the inspiration for these episodes comes in a variety of ways, and one of those is through you. I want you to feel like this is your show too. So send me a message and let me know which episode is your favorite and why. And tell me if there's a topic you'd want to hear me talk about. Your feedback applies to so many people, and your suggestion could change someone's life for the better. The best way to do this is by subscribing to the show and leaving a review through your favorite podcast platform. I really listen to you guys, and this dialogue feeds my soul. You say that you're a fan of me, but truth be told, I am a fan of yours. Everything is working out for each of us, and we're all in this together.